At times, I am lost in the thoughts, emotions, and sensations from fear. I may be overwhelmed by the thoughts, emotions, sensations, and mind state. Added feelings of I can't manage, helplessness come up. If I'm aware of the thought and feeling, I may be able to let them go and come back to the present with what I'm doing, or to the breath, or even get lost again in thinking. I may react with irritation and push the sensation down or ignore it. I may be aware of the irritation coming up and there is a slowing down of the reaction. When I am identified with the mind, I take every sequence to be mine, perhaps not disturbed as everything has. Not sure if I understand that sentence fully, but okay, my thoughts, my feelings, sensations, and resistance is just buried in my unconsciousness. I may be lost and confused momentarily, regain my consciousness, or remain lost and confused till something jerks me into awareness. So before I carry on with the rest of the question, let's first just stop here. All these words become irrelevant the moment you acknowledge all of this, there is a knowing of. You say, buried in my unconsciousness. But what if your unconsciousness is also something that is known, which it is? It is also just being seen. Why just identify here? See that I am, because you're describing this whole thing. Like, okay, so it's like you with a camera, you're watching all of this, okay? And the camera is recording all of this. And you're literally describing all of this. And what you're saying, that which is being recorded, is saying that at a certain point, there was no recording of this. I was unconscious. But that itself is being recorded in the recording. And you are saying this. You are saying that this is my experience because there's a describing of it. So see that all of this is seen. Now, I know that, I remember someone in the comments said that I understand that there's an awareness of it, Sunny, but that doesn't really help me because I still fall into it. But you must fall into it again and again to acknowledge this. And it's not so much that I'm saying acknowledge this and you won't fall into this, to what you call unconsciousness. But there's a certain, once we begin to understand this, then we let go of placing ourselves in what is being recorded. Rather, we understand ourselves to be the seeing, the knowing, the recording. And therefore, by letting go of placing ourselves as an object within the seeing, being unconscious or not, right? Then one, we don't suffer that, even if we lose ourselves, quote unquote. But then also there's just this pattern of feeling like I am losing myself, I'm getting aware and then no longer being aware. This starts to be seen as false because it is in the seeing. Who's seeing? My seeing, me. I am aware. So see how all these words become irrelevant the moment you acknowledge that it is all in the seeing. And when you say I am unconscious, that means the recording stopped, seeing stopped, knowing stopped. But did it? The thinking and the feeling and the suffering when you are unconscious, can it be without still that background of knowing? And that background of knowing is not somewhere else. It is from where I see even what I call unconsciousness. So we must understand, we must come to understand that that is my seat. And I can't keep placing myself within what is being seen. And with this simple adjustment of establishing my position as the subtlest yet the most intimate, closest to me seeing, then this whole pattern starts to dissolve. But don't resist this being unconscious and losing yourself or whatever. And sometimes, you maybe you don't want to react, but then you react. So don't resist that constant happening. Affirm this, like, not mentally, but see this in your experience again and again. That all this, right? The Even the thoughts and feelings when I'm unconscious are being registered. How do I know that? Because you're telling me about it. You're telling me about the thoughts and feelings that were there when you were quote unquote unconscious. So see that background of knowing, which seems like it's somewhere over there, or not in my view, or I forget it. See that even the forgetfulness is actually an object in your knowing, not somebody else's, not something that's over there. It is your direct experience. And let this understanding surface, because you will stop placing yourself within the what is being recorded, what is being seen. So know that this teaching is not just about being totally aware and present. It's about understanding your position. Because if you just make the teaching only about, oh, I must be present, I must be aware of being aware all the time throughout the day and everything. Although, yes, do that. But don't just make it about that, because then you will suffer when you are not aware of being aware. See that even when you are not aware of being aware, the background of awareness, which I am aware, no one else is aware. No one else is telling me that what I am aware of. Even when I'm not aware of being aware, that background of awareness is not lost. It's not gone. I am still perceiving from that inmost essence. So why place myself as an object within the knowing? Acknowledge yourself as the knower of even the unconsciousness or forgetfulness. Because again, the concept of unconsciousness and forgetfulness is also coming from body identification. Me as a certain something, as a certain somebody, I'm trying to be aware. I'm trying to not lose awareness or be more present. But that all that soup of confusion starts to be sorted out. I hope this is clear. I'm just going to get to the second part of the question. And perhaps the second part of the question I have not read it yet, but perhaps that also is just the answer to that will be the same. So you say, sometimes I observe the thoughts and sensations. I do not react, but accept, and the sensation dissolves, subsides. At times, the sensation persists at the same intensity or lessens, and I may not be disturbed. Do I observe it till it subsides, or can I peacefully let it be to dissolve it on its own and arise another time? Yes. We're not observing to dissolve anything. We're not observing to get rid of anything. We're simply observing and acknowledging its existence. It's like a guest that comes to your home. If you just try to avoid them, and this example may not be perfect, but if you just try to avoid them or reject them or don't acknowledge them at all, it's like you're not acknowledging their existence. So in just that way, this feeling, this sensation, this pain, whatever it may be, is your visitor. See how openly you acknowledge and accept when happiness visits you, when pleasure visits you with open arms. And that's why it doesn't become a problem. You never make a problem out of pleasure. You never make a problem out of peace, out of happiness, laughter. You accept it with open arms, you acknowledge it, you experience it fully, and it passes. And the moment some sort of negative feeling comes, you become very, very self-conscious, not self-aware, like just self-conscious as a person who needs to get rid of this, who shouldn't be experiencing this. You deny it, you reject it, you don't acknowledge its existence, meaning you don't give it equal validity as your sensations of pleasure. So you're rejecting that, you're fighting, and then it becomes a problem and you suffer it. And now you're doing acceptance to dissolve it. But that is not acceptance. So, yes, we observe it to acknowledge its equal validity as experience, just as equal as happiness or pleasure. It is no less experience. It is no less experienceable. And when you acknowledge it, you allow it, it plays its time, and it passes. Beautiful. So observe it, acknowledge it. And it's like if you're doing certain things, like you don't need to just be stay focused in on the feeling. You acknowledge it. And perhaps, like the other day I got a question. It's like, how do you do this with public speaking? Let's say you're giving a speech and you're very nervous. And so how do I dissolve the nervousness? I say, and especially in the middle of the speech when you're giving the speech, I say, no, no, let the nervousness be there. Like, let the nervousness be part of the experience of giving a speech. And when you're no longer, while giving the speech, being afraid of your nervousness itself or thinking of nervousness before the speech as a problem, then the nervousness is just allowed to be part of the experience of giving a speech. But it becomes weaker in its capacity to make you suffer because that factor of resistance is gone. And let's say you observe the nervousness before the speech, and while you're giving a speech, your attention is occupied, and so while in action, just allow what is to be as it is, not necessarily by full on attention on it, but just acknowledging it as a part of experience. Because even in action, even while giving a speech, the nervousness is felt. It is a part of your experience. The sound, the taste, the touch, the sight, everything is part of your experience in that knowing. That is all you're learning to allow. You're just no longer identifying as this object, this body that says no to this, yes to this, no to that, yes to this. Creates a division in experience and suffers. You're relinquishing that contraction. You're becoming the knowing in which the body says all this stuff, but it's not taken to be what I am. Your child may say a lot of things, but you don't take it that seriously. You're not just feeding everything that they're saying. They may say certain good things, certain bad things, but you're not like, even judging them. You just know, like it's just child. So just in that way, look at your mind in the same way. And look at your experience as this open field of whatever. Whatever is coming, let it come. Whatever is going, let it go. It's a complete place of freedom. And there's no suffering. Suffering can only be, as I said earlier, if there's judgment, there's resistance. So, yes, carry on with whatever you're doing. And even if that sensation or feeling or discomfort persists, take it to be part of the experience. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with pain, even. Who says there's not anything wrong with pain? Pain, when necessary, it surfaces. It teaches you what it needs to teach you, and it passes. And there's ultimately way more to learn from pain than from a fleeting happiness or pleasure. If anything, sometimes the pleasure and the happiness dulls. It pulls you into immersion. Notice yourself on vacation. You are just immersed in experience. You think about who am I on vacation? Do you think of acceptance on vacation? No. So, but here again, we're not rejecting the pleasant experiences as well, but we're giving equal validity to what we call negative experience because it's all just experience before it is labeled as positive or negative. So let's just finish the question off. Say sometimes the sensation is strong and I'm able to dissolve it patiently. Sometimes I give up and as it gets stronger and react with dissatisfaction and sadness. Even the reaction is a part of the experience. Observe, be what from where do you have to watch to let even the reaction happen yet not take yourself to be the reaction. You see, we're introducing a total depth to you. Right now, we suffer the reaction, the emotion, the sensation because we believe ourselves to be this bundle. That's the person. But you're being taught that the person is an object within the knowing, within the seeing. And this is a freedom from the person. So don't worry, this cycle will continue to happen for as long as it needs to happen. You become watchful, as I said to Ben, you become watchful of even the reaction when it arises as an object. Sometimes people say, Sunny, I can't observe because it brings up a lot of resistance and fear. And I say, then watch even that. It's almost like we're trying to, okay, let's say there's pain there and we're trying to watch this pain and just allow it. And again, you're doing it out of like a resistance because you're like, if I observe it, it'll get rid of it. Already you've taken a stance against it. And then while you're observing the pain, perhaps fear and anxiousness arises and you're like, oh my God, this is just too much. I can't do it. And then, you let it go. So the pain you've made an object of your seeing, but the reaction that arises to it, you again take to be the subject. You take to be me and mine. And so you're being asked to even see that this, which is taken again to be the subject, is actually an object. It is experience. It is within the recording of the camera. Know yourself to be the lens of the camera, which just allows what it is seeing. The lens, like right now, I have the camera recording this. No matter what is being said, it's gonna record it. I can curse everybody out on the call right now, and it could be like the worst call ever. Yet the camera would still record it. It's not saying, "Oh, this is not," and it's not giving me commentary. I could still upload whatever, like I could say whatever, and then I uploaded it to YouTube. It's not saying, okay, you should say this, you shouldn't say this. This is gonna piss people off, or it's not gonna piss people off. It's not saying anything. Or this is gonna lead to a good thing or bad thing. It's just recording. That's it's the only thing. So be that seeing when this pain and the reaction is just equally seen. This is already your ultimate essential experience as the awareness. It's not being fabricated. It's just that this thought that is also in the seeing says, I don't want this, I want this. And this we identify with. We believed ourselves to be this. And this contraction into an appearance that you are not, well, opens the gates of suffering. So that is acceptance. Acceptance, again, it's not a thing, it's not a practice, it only starts out as those, but it is just you adjusting back into the lens that you are, the knowing in which this is appearing. Just the last part of the question, you said, does this reflect a need for me to become more sensitive of my present moment awareness? Let go of all of that. It reflects just what we just discussed. You seeing things as that lens, which is open, allowing all, not in battle with this or that, not in resistance to this, that, or this, not clinging. Also, like the lens, let's say this lens right now that's recording me, it captured a beautiful conversation like this. It's also not clinging to this conversation. This conversation is becoming unreal. The moment the words are said, they're gone. The awareness is not clinging to anything. But from a state of body identification, right? I'm like, let me hang on to these words. Let me write them down so I don't forget them. Let me remember them. Let me take notes. There's a teaching, and I forget by who, but I came across it once. It was like, don't bother trying to remember anything. Don't bother trying to take notes. If the words fail to bring the understanding as they're being said, then don't worry, it's not worth it. Just continue to go through experience. So, uh, right, see that perspective is like not clinging or resisting to anything. And I remember actually when I just sort of even came across spiritual teaching, some teachers used to say this, like, don't waste time writing notes and trying to do that. It's just listen. And sometimes even in the beginning of this call, sometimes we just do that emptying, right? No longer clinging, resisting, expecting. It's just a pure listening. In the pure listening, whatever understanding comes, that understanding will act. That understanding will be implemented, practiced, and received. So in that, you are becoming that principle which does not cling or resist.